Morning everyone, lovely to see you. Well, I can't really see you, but anyway, lovely that you're joining me. It's Diana from the Avenue. I am going to show you my best pudding. To me, it's the best pudding in the world. It's apple crumble, and I'll show you custard another time. So the apple crumble, we're going to make, in fact, with two different apples because I've only got one cooking apple. A cooking apple, when you cook it, it disintegrates, it goes like baby's food. When you cook an eating apple, it holds its shape. So in fact, it'd be probably quite nice, but I've actually only got one. So how to prepare an apple. You hold your hand either side, cut through the core, and do that to all the apples. And once you've done that, then we're going to peel them and we're going to cut them into little, sort of into quarters. Let me just see which is the best knife. Let's have a look. So to core an apple, you go down on one side of the core and then down the other side of the core. You want to have some sort of bowl nearby where you can put your rubbish. Okay, you want to peel it like that, and then get yourself a smallest pan because it's not going to be that much. Cut your apple in half. Always have your thumb on the side of the blade. Don't ever just try and cut through, because that's when you can damage yourself, because you've got no resistance and you can just cut a muscle. It sounds a bit drastic, but just be careful when you do it. You just cut in like that so that they're in little chunks, and you do that to all the apples. And remember, what happens if an apple, when you bite an apple, it goes brown, doesn't it, after a while? So what we're going to do is we're going to just cook these to stop the browning happening, and we're going to add, it's got a life, that one still, and we're going to cut the zest off a lemon and add that to it for flavour. Now let's say, some people like the idea of cinnamon. Well, I like cinnamon, but I actually tend to put it in my crumble topping rather than putting it in the apples. Now, if you wanted it in the apples, you wouldn't use cinnamon powder, you would use the stick. And I presume that you all know where cinnamon comes from. It's from bark of a tree. In fact, we saw it out in Sri Lanka. It's amazing. It's just the bark of a tree. And they roll it and then they dry it. In fact, we went to a factory to watch it being done. Extraordinary. It's all quite charmingly done on carpets and things, and they dry it in the sun. And then you would just literally put the stick in there, because if you put powdered cinnamon, what's going to happen to the apples? They're going to go sort of horrid colour. So by doing it with a stick, it's going to infuse into the apples, and you'll get that lovely cinnamon flavour, but you won't get that sort of rather not a very attractive colouring. So remember, brownlee apples, they disintegrate into a puree, and then eating apples, they tend to hold their shape. There are some people, to make a variation, you could actually add some people add raspberries, blueberries. Black currants are probably the most common things to add with the apples, and they have got a huge amount of moisture in the apples, so you don't put any water in there. If you're a little bit nervous and you think you're going to burn them, well then just put half a spoonful, or maybe a tablespoon would probably do, into the apples. Put a tight fitting lid on the top and they'll just stew down really quickly and you won't burn them. Okay, to get the zest off a lemon, it's quite good for your knife skills actually. Hold the lemon, just chop the very end off, so now I've got a very stable lemon, and you just literally just saw off the zest. I actually love the zest in there. It gives, and you can actually eat it after the apples have cooked. It softens down a bit. Oh, my board's gone funny. This is the board that it's not the cookery school, that's for sure. All right, and then if you can see there, it's got lots of the white pith. You want to sort of scrape that off, or try and get it with your knife and just remove it. So look, you see the difference between that bit and that bit. It's just a little bit bitter. I mean, if it's a little bit, it's not a problem. I chuck mine in like that. So if you have a look at that, that's what the apples look like. I'm going to put 3 or 4 strips of lemon in there. I'm going to get a little bit of lemon juice in, which will give it a nice extra lemony flavour. So with your lemon that you've taken the zest off, you want to give it a real good squeeze. And what happens, all those little balls of juice are all broken up. Cut the lemon in half, and as you can see, how the juice just flows out of it. It's a really good way of doing it. Whoops, there's a pip. You can put your hand underneath. Make sure you've got nice clean hands, obviously. And just let the lemon juice go down. I don't put any sugar in because I quite like the sweetness of the crumble on the top and the sourness of the apple in the bottom. I've got a few pips in there, but so what, really? It's all nutritious, isn't it? Put the lid on. Put it on a medium-high oven for about 10-15 minutes, and you'll see them just slightly collapse. Okay, so next, we're going to make the crumble. Now, we don't use a recipe for crumble. What goes into crumble? You need sugar of some sort for the sweetness, so you can use brown sugar, you can use caster sugar, granulated, whatever you've got hanging around. It honestly doesn't matter. I've got that there. We're going to use some sort of fat, so we're going to use butter, so whether it's salty, unsalty, who cares? And then we're going to use something that's going to bind it, so we've got flour. Any type of flour, whatever flour, you've got wholemeal, brown flour, whatever is good. I in fact put this, I've got normal flour in there, but I put it in the strong white bread because I quite like the packaging. So what you do, if you work it out, it's half the weight of the flour, but we're not going to weigh it, we're just going to look at it. So it's half the weight of the flour in sugar and butter. So let's say if it's 200 grams of flour, you put in 100 grams of butter and 100 grams of sugar. Do you get that? So it's half the quantity of flour in the fat and also the sugar. And then you can add your cinnamon to it if you'd like, to give it an extra flavour. So what I'm doing is I'm going to guess. So I'm just going to put some flour in, just like that. Now I like the idea of oats. I think it gives it quite a nutty flavour. I quite like the big, huge oats, but I haven't got them. Just got any old oats. So I'm going to put half again of oats. So that's my sort of binding ingredient. So I've got the oats and the flour. So you look at it and you look at the quantity and you go, right, I'm going to put half that in sugar. So I'm just going to guess. So I'll just chuck in, I'll do this with my hand in case it blobs out. I'll do half sugar. What you could do is always, once you've made it up, is give it a taste and see what you think. Look, it's about half sugar. And then I'm going to do, again, the same quantity of the sugar in butter. I'm just going to chuck in a chunk. If it's slightly more, if it's slightly less, who cares? Couldn't matter. And then with your fingers, you just literally just get your fist in there. No, get your little light fingers in there. Give it a little rub. And actually, I forgot the cinnamon, but I'm going to put that in a second. And this is actually how to make pastry. Don't know if any of you lot made pastry, but pastry is great fun to make. And literally, you just carry on going like this with pastry. You just add some water in it. Voila, you've got your pastry. But with a crumble, you don't want to get it together. You just want to have it sort of quite sticky together in little lumps, but not so that it combines completely. Because this is basically a sweet pastry, isn't it? Hang on, I do want some cinnamon in there. Excuse me, my very grubby hands, this is not very good. But we're going to, I want the other side. I have to clean that later. So I'm going to put in about that much, so it's about a teaspoon really of cinnamon. All right, then you think, okay, how do I know if that's nice or not? How do I know if it's sweet enough? Well, the obvious is saying we're going to taste it, isn't it? So grab yourself a teaspoon. Got a nice long one here, it's quite cool. And we're going to, it's lovely raw. It sounds a bit odd, but it's really nice raw. I could eat just that. That's why I love my apple crumble. It's really a very quick pudding. I mean, you don't have to have apples, you could do bananas, chop up bananas, sprinkle this on the top. You could do pear, you'd have to cook that because that goes brown, doesn't it, when you eat it. If you cut it open and leave it, it will oxidize. What else? You could do rhubarb, you would have to cook that beforehand. Plums, cut them in half, remove the stones. I think I'll probably give them a little bit of a helping hand, put them on a roasting tin that's lined with baking parchment, and just sprinkle with a little bit of brown sugar, whack that in the oven. What other fruit are there? Can't think. Anyway, any fruit, but think, if it goes brown when you cut open to it, you're going to have to cook it. If it's a hard fruit, you're going to have to cook it because it wants to soften a bit. If it's something like banana, which is a soft fruit, you don't even bother to cook it. You just chuck on your crumble on the top. All right, let's just have a look at these apples and see how they're going. Wow, quite good timing. Look, oh, they're just sort of slightly softened. So all you do now is find yourself a container. I can't find a container, but I can find one of these. You know, it would freeze well anyway, so we always put that in the freezer for another time. Get your apples. Remember, I would leave the lemon in. Yeah, don't worry about that. Do you see how what a gorgeous colour they are? They haven't gone brown at all because I've cooked them. And the lemon juice helps. I put no water in. So let me just recap on that. We've got, okay, I've got one Bramley apple, the one that goes a little bit purified. I've got a couple of cooking apples in there. I've got also a pip. I've got lemon zest, about 3 strips, removing the white pith, because that makes it a little bit bitter. I've also got the lemon juice in there. So remember, you go, give it a bit of a squeeze to soften up all those little pearls of juice, and then you cut it in half and squeeze it. Try not to get lots of pips in. Then I put it in a saucepan with a tight-fitting lid. That was probably, I don't know, actually there's a clock up there, probably 10 minutes, if that. That's what they look like. And then with that, I've got my crumble. Wow, what you could eat now. In fact, I could eat the whole thing now. It's, let's say it's 200 grams of flour with oats, so it'd be 100 grams of oats and 100 grams of flour. You roughly put in half that quantity, so you put in about 100 grams of butter, 100 grams of sugar, whatever sugar you've got hanging around, it doesn't matter. And then now, which you can't see, I'm just going to put the crumble on the top. Put quite a fair amount on the top, because the crumble's the best bit. And that goes into an oven of 185 until it's lovely and golden brown, and it will go all crunchy on the top, and it will just carry on cooking the apples a little bit and get hot through for, I would say, probably 25-30 minutes. Voila, fantastic. Okay, come back another time. I'm going to show you custard next time. Cool. Adios. Bye.